response to the ego and its own political liberalism. All right, so the key thing that I learned from this text was Max Stirner's conception of the individual as distinct from the ego, because it is clear that in this passage, Stirner attacks individualism on the notion that it is really just anti-egoism for the sake of the individual, which is a conceptual act in and of itself. Stirner makes clear in this passage that he does not think of the political liberal, or excuse me, as the liberal thinker, whether he be political, social, or humane in general, as much different from the modern Christian. Both have their highest goods, their spooky whoops. But when it all comes together, the liberal state that upholds their principles is no much different from the church that does the same thing, but on a more societal level rather than a secular level. I will say I do enjoy Stirner's takedown of liberalism in this chapter. I guess the way I see it is that as a traditionalist myself, I think liberalism only works when filtered through a very specific lens. Freedom in and of itself is not a self-supporting or self-sustaining or even self-containing principle. Just like equality and fraternity, nationalism, it requires a core, it's a structure built on a bedrock of principles. It's not a rock unto itself. And if anything, egoism, it is. The ego is, I have to say, a self-sustaining principle unto itself. The ego insists on its own existence. That's why egoism does work as an ideology unto itself. And so egoism can essentially pivot itself as the alternative to traditionalist or deontology or religion, what have you, because liberalism offers nothing else to replace it. The only other alternative is to latch on to another politically convenient movement, i.e., progressivism, and try to use that to promote what you perceive as the greatest good. And if you want more information on that, I'll link a debate between the distributist and Sargon of Akkad. But the attempts of classical liberals straight from the Enlightenment era in trying to form societies or social contracts just comes off as an attempt to try to reconcile the loss of God, which was the greatest good for Western civilization, with the need to keep the social order and cohesion that only the church could provide. Political liberalism has no real way of countering egoism, because only those that directly benefit from liberal principles will ever seek to promote it, and liberalism, the liberal principles in and of themselves, are not universal enough across all of human understanding to merit the designation of greatest good, the way God has. Well, that seems like a pretty succinct summary on on the relationship between political liberalism and egoism in general. Let's see how Max Stirner now deals with social liberalism.